Good evening, everybody. Um, Today, welcome to the Teacher's Side Income Business. We do this every week at 6, and originally this was planned to be a Q&A um, session. That's the format. And to a large extent, that's still, let me fix myself up here a little bit. That is still the format that I want to use. Okay. Um, but because we just started a few weeks ago, you might have noticed that I've been doing presentations based on some topics that I know for a fact a lot of teachers were interested in, and we had a master class that was scheduled for coming Monday, all right, and um, not to continue with the master class just yet, because I think we should give things a little bit more time for teachers to come in and tell us exactly what they want us to do. All right, so I didn't prepare anything for today. I just have those kinds of announcements to make, and I have a few more because we also have a growing Facebook group that also is not where I want it to be as yet before I actually start putting out, um, permanent content out there. Okay, I have a lot of stuff prepared, but so far, um, I really do think I need just a little bit more feedback. Okay, good. Um, And so today, what I wanted to do was to make some announcements while waiting for questions to come in. Okay, and I haven't given up completely on the idea of actually, um, making this a real Q&A, because that's how I function best. Okay, I prefer to have real questions posed to me. You know, um, who are you? where you're from, where you're spending your time, what you want to do this for. I'm going to spend some time answering those questions as if they were asked to me, but I prefer to get the questions from people, right? So I'm going to keep monitoring my screen just to see, uh, to make sure that we, as soon as we get questions, I'm going to try and respond to them. Okay. Once again, if because I know from looking at my analytics that there's a lot of people, close to 100 people the last time I checked, that actually look at the live by the time it's finished, right? Some people stay longer than others. Nobody ever comments or say anything. And I like to think or like to believe that that's because the type of topic that we're sharing. I feel like my gut feeling is that teachers don't want to be too visible on here because we're talking about a second income. And depending on where you work and where you live and the school you attend and the policies of uh, your employer, that might not be something you want everybody to know that you are looking at or interested in or participating in doing, right? So I understand that quite well, and so I've just continued to put out the broadcast, right? But in order to solve this problem, what I've also decided to do was to start a private Facebook group where you can go in there and hopefully, because of the privacy involved in putting that together, you can express yourself um, in that way, and don't worry about whether or not somebody might be listening to you. All right. Um, and also besides that, I'm throwing out the invitation again that anybody, you can inbox me on any of the platforms, right? Because we're simultaneously streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Okay, so this broadcast, as soon as we're finished from here, it just stays up there live. I don't edit it at all. Right? So uh, uh, if you're not comfortable asking a question directly or even typing in the comments, feel free to inbox me privately, right? If you're on LinkedIn, there's ways on LinkedIn that you could actually inbox me without anybody else seeing the message but myself and you. And the same thing applies to Facebook. Um, for LinkedIn, I know for a fact there's no way of there's no real way for the comments to show on your screen here, right? But for Facebook and YouTube, if you put your comments here, I'll see them, and then what I put in back in the comments, you'll see as well. That doesn't apply to LinkedIn. Anyway, so I'll spend just a few minutes talking about myself and the company I started, right? Because I basically, well, for everybody, I still live on the island of St. Martin. It's where I've worked in the school system for 26 years. Um, and retired last year, April. But for almost 15 years before that, I'd been preparing for this moment when I knew I'd be no longer working in a school. And I spent quite a few years in the classroom. I spent about 4 or 5 years in the classroom. I started first as a substitute math and science teacher at the high school level. And it took me about 4 or 5 years to convince the administration of this school that it's time for them to hire a real teacher because I really wanted to do social work. That's what I've been trained to do. Um, and so, but I don't know what it says about my performance while I was teaching, but I couldn't get them to fire. I couldn't get them to fire me and give me a job as a social worker. It took the other social worker in the school. I don't know if Miss Henry, Miss Beryl Burkle will ever be looking at these broadcast, but she kept lobbying for a few years that we need another social worker because we have two schools. Actually, it should be about five schools, but one of the schools is, I'd say three schools roll into one on one campus, and then on the other campus is the other school. And she felt that she was overworked, and she had to be very creative in managing her client list, right? Because uh, if you're catering to, I don't know, close to 600 students, with one social worker, and at least there's a lot of students at my particular school attracted from um, disenfranchised kind of backgrounds. And so we had a lot of clients, and so we had to do, or she in the beginning had to do a lot of, um, she had to be very creative in terms of serving that entire student body. So after a few years, she was finally able to convince them that, um, you guys need to let Mr. Davis go, and so I was eventually being allowed to do what I really wanted to do, which is school social work. Right. But my years in that classroom, right, even though I'm not a trained teacher, um, my years in the classroom gave me a very healthy respect for teachers and what they do. I I know there are people who might be listening to this who will disagree, but I still will tell anybody who cares to listen that I was not the best teacher. I, I, I'm because of my training and my inclination to do one-on-one or small group work with especially students who were, you know, for want of a better word, they were at risk. I kept, gravitating towards those kinds of students, while a lot of the other students, sometimes they even complain, Mr. Davis, um, as soon as you only pay attention to the troublemakers or the ones who this and the ones who that, and then we are here trying to learn, and you're not paying us as much as attention as you need to. And I have to admit that they were correct, right? So I had to spend a lot of time trying to adjust that, but then I would slowly drift right back to that, and then maybe because I was also very open with my students, um, I would invite them to tell me what was wrong, and so the ones who felt that they were being neglected, they never hesitated in telling me, "Mr. Davis, you're doing that thing again, right? We are here too, eh?" So I remember those days quite well. So I don't think I did the best job as a teacher. I think I held my own. Yes, I'll be the first to admit that. But because I knew, for example, that I wasn't that good in managing a classroom, because again my attention you tended to go towards certain kinds of students. Um, and so even when I finished that, I always said I wanted to spend some time doing some things for teachers. You might know a bit of my story from some I've been spending some time talking about this. So after I started to do social work with the students, I very quickly moved towards spending a lot of time with parents, because we knew that a lot of the behavior problems we were having in the schools, the root cause of it was parenting skills and so on. You know, and we had quite a bit of students in those in those schools who, um, just Beryl used to go to mention that, just 10, 15, 20 years ago, she had the parents, and then we were beginning to see some of the children um, from those parents. And a lot of those students, the administration remembers some of the students, the parents who had been there not too long before. So, for example, the school social worker might remember a particular parent who attended the school, and that parent was at risk at the time when they were a student. and did not finish school. The student maybe got pregnant or something and did not finish. They left after 2 years of middle school. And the reason why they left was because maybe they got pregnant. And even though the school would have wanted them back, they had a baby and they never came back. Right? That has happened quite a few times. And so, if 13 years later, we're seeing those, the baby who has now become an adolescent appears on our doors. And so we were still dealing with a lot of those parents as well. And so I quickly realized that I needed to spend a lot of time with the parents. And so I did that. But all the time I was doing this, it was still also, okay, so there's one question here. Oh, okay, that's all right. That's not for public viewing. So, during those years, I think what I did was basically continued with the spending. I think I spent maybe about one third of my time with parents and the rest of my time with students. But what started to happen was by my 10th year as a school social worker, the teachers started coming into my classroom, into my office, sorry. All right. And that turned into a thing. By the time I left, I was spending at least 3 to 5 hours per week with teachers, and a lot of times they were not dealing with school issues. Most of the time they were, but I'd say a substantial amount of time was spent dealing with personal issues. Um, um, and even though I couldn't do anything about it at the time, what a lot of the venting about, at least I'd say a third of the time, was about making ends meet. And, you know, a lot of teachers felt that they felt a little disappointed that education wasn't what they thought it would be, you know, and they were trying to address that and deal with that in a positive way. All right. We've lost a lot of teachers over the years. A lot have come and a lot have gone. And so we've had, at my school, we had a lot of turnover. We had a lot of teachers who were teaching, who came from Europe to teach, and most of them did not stay. Okay, so that was indicative of an even more basic problem underneath. Okay, well, I want to say that throughout all those years, what I um, began formulating in my mind was, I am pretty sure I can do something about some of these issues that were coming up in my office all the time that I didn't have the agency to do at the time, but I had a lot of ideas, right? And so I've decided to make this my work after retirement, and that's what I'm busy with now. So we're here busy basically building up an audience, and I'm not sure we've cracked the not the code as yet on how to get the proper kind of engagement because of the topic that we're dealing with. I understand, because we'll be, you're doing these live broadcasts and um, social media, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, they all are very good at giving you the analytics for these broadcasts. And so I know that people are looking at the lives, okay? Um, but the engagement isn't there. So maybe we might have to settle on another format, again, depending on how things roll out. But I'm going to keep showing up every week, hoping something opens up, okay? Or maybe somebody suggests something. So I want to make the announcement today that number one, the masterclass, I'm going to put it back. Um, we're gonna move the masterclass back by, let's say, 3 weeks. So it was scheduled to be the coming Monday. Right. First, it was scheduled for the 10th, and I realized it was Sunday. And so we had to move it to the following day, the 11th, the Monday, which is this coming Monday. As I said, I don't think we have enough feedback. And if you're going to do something, you want to make sure that your the demand for it is there. And so what I'm doing now is pushing more to get some more people to give me feedback. So one last time, if the only thing you feel comfortable with is to inbox me, then do so. Right? You can do so on Facebook. You can do so on LinkedIn. YouTube might be a little bit more difficult, but find me on any of those two platforms and inbox me about what you want us to do, or whatever ideas you have about the kind of content we should be putting forward. I have an entire course, and the course is basically about how to build a business um, around your expertise. And we've been basically putting out a lot of content over the last 5 to 6 weeks, trying to show you that your expertise is not necessarily the subject you teach. Your years of experience in the classroom um, gives you a lot of leverage in the open market. All right, so go back and check out the broadcasts that we've had. They are still there. They're there on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. All right. Ask questions if you can, if you want, if it moves you, or inbox me if it does. All right, because I'm still not seeing any questions coming up, and that's the format that we're going to keep. I want this to be a live Q&A. All right. Any suggestions you have, I'm open to it. I keep telling my partner that this is basically an experiment, and so there's nothing that we're doing that I consider hard and fast. If I get feedback that maybe you want to try a different format, then we will try that as well. All right, but we're not going to continue just speaking into a void and just thinking that we're doing the correct thing until we get the kind of feedback that we're looking for, telling us that we're on the right path. And we're going to just keep doing this and keep experimenting with different things, hoping that we hit on what teachers might be looking for. All right. So having said that, we're going to sign off now. Um, and then I look forward to getting some messages inboxed. Even if you don't feel comfortable giving us questions, inbox the questions. All right. We need ideas on how you feel about what we're doing right now. Um, the ideas for the master class with the topic, as we said, is building an online business, teaching a course, right? But we are dead set against the kind of course that just is what we consider an information dump, right? We don't want any more information dumps, all right? Because there's enough of those, and we feel that the people who are making money in the online course space don't offer what teachers can. And so my stick is basically come over and let me show you how to do the marketing piece, and you bring the pedagogic piece, and you can begin to supplement your income or even replace it, right? It's not that hard. So let's leave this here. I'm going to look forward to comments, suggestions, questions, and then we'll take it from there. Thanks for listening on the replay. Over and out. This is Ronald Davis. See you next week.